Let's talk about the first black man, the first out gay man, and the first man over 40 to win Mr. Olympia. A bodybuilder who had a showdown with Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1980 that fans still talk about. Chris "Diamond Calves" Dickerson. Welcome back to Yesterqueers. My name's Amanda, and I'm a public historian who talks about queer history on the internet. Henry Christoph Dickerson was born August 25th, 1939 in Montgomery, Alabama, the youngest of a set of triplets. We're going to do a little Black History Month twofer here because Chris is the son of a legendary lawyer and civil rights activist named Mahala Dickerson. She and Rosa Parks were lifelong friends, and she graduated from Howard University 4 years after Pauli Murray did. Among other accomplishments, Mahala was the first black woman admitted to the Alabama State Bar, the second black woman admitted to the Indiana State Bar, the first black person of any gender admitted to the Alaska State Bar, and the first black president of the National Association of Women Lawyers. She was also an Alpha Kappa Alpha. Okay, back to Chris, who is on the right in this picture. He spent the first 14 years of his life in the Jim Crow South in Montgomery, Alabama. When he was 14, his mother moved the family to Indianapolis, and Chris went to a Quaker boarding school in Ohio for high school. Not only did he take elocution lessons to get rid of his southern accent, he also started doing gymnastics, which he had a natural affinity for, and studying acting, singing, and dancing. He did what many hopeful performers do and moved to New York City after high school in 1957 to study opera, ballet, and acting at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. One of his singing teachers there inadvertently changed the course of his life by suggesting that he strengthen his chest and back muscles in order to improve his tenor range. That got Chris hooked on weightlifting, but he didn't seriously start to pursue bodybuilding until he moved to Los Angeles in 1963. He ended up training with Bill Pearl, a legendary bodybuilder whose picture in a magazine had sparked Chris's interest in bodybuilding in the first place. They trained together for the entirety of Chris's career, and Chris said later in life that Bill has been everything to me: father, confidant, brother. When Chris started training seriously, he was too short at 5'6" and too old at 24 compared to his peers. Plus, he was black and gay in a sport dominated by straight white men. Chris's participation and eventual success in the sport of bodybuilding challenged the very definition of masculinity. In spite of being short, Chris was perfectly proportioned for a bodybuilder at the time. His broad shoulders tapered to a narrow waist, and his biceps and calves were exactly the same size, the kind of symmetry that competitors strove for. He earned his nickname, Diamond Calves, by having some of the most perfectly developed calves in the sport. His gymnastics, dance, and acting background also gave him an advantage on the podium. He could move gracefully through his poses, making it a cohesive performance, and he radiated charm and confidence from the stage. He came in third in his very first contest, the 1965 Mr. Long Beach, and then he just started racking up titles. He won 11 the next year, including Junior Mr. USA, and he won Mr. America just 5 years later in 1970. In the same way that the Miss America pageant was founded to crown the epitome of an American woman, the Mr. America contest was intended to celebrate the most perfect physical specimen of an American man. For a short black gay man to win was groundbreaking and flew in the face of the prevailing belief that real American men were strapping straight white men. He went on to win the coveted Mr. Universe title 4 years later. When he wasn't collecting trophies like candy at Halloween, Chris worked as what we would now call a fitness model. He was also a favorite subject of several famous photographers, including Robert Mapplethorpe and a homoerotic photographer named Jim French. Chris appeared in several of French's photo essays, including one called Man that was published in hardcover in 1972. Unlike his white counterparts, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lou Ferrigno, Steve Reeves, Gordon Scott, Chris's success as a bodybuilder never led to acting jobs, in spite of the fact that he was a trained actor. In 1980, Chris narrowly lost the title of Mr. Olympia to Arnold Schwarzenegger in a highly controversial contest that came down to a pose-off between the two of them. Bodybuilding fans still argue about what happened that year and who should have won. There was apparently a lot of behind-the-scenes intrigue, especially since Schwarzenegger came out of retirement to compete. So for those who are curious, I've linked to both a video of the pose-off and a deep dive article about the competition in the usual place. Chris finally won first in 1982 at the age of 43, making him the oldest bodybuilder ever to win Mr. Olympia, in addition to being the first black winner and the first openly gay winner. Chris officially retired in 1994 after amassing more than 50 titles over the course of a 30-year career. After he retired, he remained deeply involved in the bodybuilding and fitness worlds, traveling as a speaker and an educator, and lending his support to the Stark Center for Physical Culture and Sports at UT Austin. This is him with Doris Barrio, the First Lady of Bodybuilding, at the opening of the Stark Center Museum in 2011. He was inducted into the International Bodybuilding and Fitness Hall of Fame in 2000 and the Muscle Beach Venice Hall of Fame in 2014. At that one, he actually sang the national anthem before his induction ceremony. Chris Dickerson died of heart failure following COVID in December of 2021. He was 82 years old. That's it for today. As always, more information, including sources and further reading, is available in the usual place.